So hi everyone, happy Saturday, happy Comic-Con, happy Star Wars Reads Month. I am so excited and thrilled, and I'd be remiss to say a little nervous, because this is our very first celebration of women writers in Star Wars. I have been waiting for this panel to start since I started at Disney-Lucasfilm Press. I am actually Marianne Zissimos, aka Maz. I'm the PR manager. I'm also a Gemini. I like cute furry animals like Vultexes, Lothcats, Porgs, and long walks on desert planets to catch double sunsets. And I'm here to introduce this stunning panel of exceptional talent, and I'm gonna let them just go down the line and introduce themselves as they see fit.
That's a lot of, am I on? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility. My name is Delilah S. Dawson. I also write as Lila Bowen. I probably shouldn't be trusted. I'm really big into porgs and judgmental fish nuns. Thank you, and murder bears. I am a Libra. I am the year of the snake. I like being on roller coasters, but not waiting in line for them. And gluten-free cupcakes are my favorite thing on earth.
I'm Mur Lafferty. I'm the author of Solo, and I probably can be trusted. Oh, thank you.
I brought you in the green room. You can't.
She was listening. Okay, so I am a Leo. I like skiing on planets that are 100% snow and not finding the caves of monsters within them. And I love robots that sacrifice themselves for other robots. Oh, no, it's a good thing. She's awesome.
My name is Justina Ireland. I wrote Lando's Luck, which just came out. Yay! And I also write other things under my own name, but they're not Lando books, so who cares? And I'm a Sagittarius, and my likes are rebellion of any kind, droid, whiskey, intergalactic. And I also am a fan of X-Wing fighters with tousled hair. And my dislikes are men who shoot first.
Nice. Hi, I'm Katie Cook. I illustrate the adorable side of the Force, such as ABC-3PO, Obi-123, and the brand new Search Your Feelings from October 2nd. Hey! I guess I'm a Sagittarius, but didn't they like add a new one? Like I'm whatever that is. I don't know what it is.
There's no new one. It's not like Pluto.
Yeah,
It's
they added like, hey, if you're between this and this, now you're something else. So it's I'm done. I'm done figuring it out. So yeah, I like Star Wars. It's a thing. I think it's gonna do okay.
It's day 3, folks. I'm Amy Ratcliffe. I wrote Star Wars Women of the Galaxy. Thank you. I'm a Capricorn. My ultimate dream is to work on a temperate, not an extreme planet in the Star Wars universe that's actually a nature preserve, and where I take care of like tauntauns and wampas and lots of tuca cats. And then, when I'm not doing that, I'd be running like the most backwater dive bar and like listen to everybody's stories and make the best drinks.
So as you can see, this is gonna be a very serious panel. So this is gonna be a two-parter question. As we all know in this room, there are a lot of fandoms to love. Maybe there's Harry Potters out there, maybe there's Star Trek fans out there. But what was it about Star Wars that made you pledge your allegiance to the characters and this world? Anybody can jump in and start. And then the second question will follow.
Ewoks. Because that was the first time I was ever allowed to stay up late, was to watch the Endor movie when it came on. And you look and you're like, oh my God, there's a little girl, and she's the hero, and she's surrounded by these loyal murder bears that are very effective, who adore her. And you're like, this is amazing. And you know, then all Star Wars fell into place. But it's always been like the cute animals and the strong women that get me.
You know, it's embarrassing to say this because as you're a kid and you grow up and you see the characters in different light, I'll admit it. I had a crush on Luke when I was very young, and I wanted to be Leia. And this is before other things happened. Before other things happened. We're talking 77 people. We're talking one movie. Yeah, but it was the young people get themselves tied up in an amazing adventure, and the fact that you have a woman, really, you know, she was a girl, she was like 18, and a big, scary, to quote Sarah Gailey again, Space Voldemort comes up to her, and she doesn't quake. She looks up at him like, yeah, jerk, come on, bring it, bring it. And this was something I'd never seen before, and it blew my mind.
Mine was definitely Darth Vader's finger wag. You are part of the rebellion, and I know it. Because I feel like that is such an iconic moment that nobody ever like talks about, but it makes him so human that he is so frustrated in that moment. He's just like pointing his like. I mean, he could force choke her, right? Yeah. But instead, he's like scornful father. Which spoiler? I mean, there you go. And I think that's what I like about the movies. Is there like even though there's like these space battles with things exploding, even though it's a vacuum. It's one of those things that's like, there's so much heart and there's so much humanity in the characters that you can't help but love it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like as a kid, Star Wars is your first glimpse into something that has world building. You have all these different characters and all these different landscapes and all these different ships and all these different animals, and the whole thing, nothing is one note, like with most children's programming. So you have this immersive experience as a kid, and I mean, I've never lost that with Star Wars. It still amazes me. So, I like it.
It's pretty neat, I think, yeah. My kind of entry point in like to falling into the obsession/love, there's a fine line there that often blurs for me, but was the Clone Wars, the animated series. So I saw, yay, Clone Wars! I saw the films for the first time. I was kind of late to them as the special editions when they were re-released in 96 or 97. But the Clone Wars, I think just where I was in my life at the time is when I was finally learning to be more open about the fact that I was a female and a geek, and then this came along, and there was Ahsoka, and there was more of Anakin and Obi-Wan, and everything about that series just grabbed my heart and pulled me in, and I've not looked back.
So now, second part of that is there a specific moment or scene that you go to that you're like, oh, that is my Star Wars moment?
I have two. Can I do two?
Go on, girl.
Okay. One is just when R2 is like on his like droid tippy toes looking into Yoda's hut. Like I feel like so much in life, I'm like, what do they do? You know, and you really should be more mindful of. But I always think I can just relate to that, especially when I was thinking back to when I was little. And then Luke looking at the twin suns is just full of so much emotion, and just the music in that scene always makes me cry, even when I'm not watching it, if it just pops up on my playlist. But both of those, just like when I think of Star Wars, those are two things that come to mind.
All right, everybody's got to say theirs.
I've got two. One is the escape from the Death Star, where everybody has a moment of ridiculous heroism. Leia's, let's all jump in the garbage chute. Han is, I'm going to chase everybody until they realize that I'm only one guy. And Luke is, we can totally go across this cavern with this chasm on this string. We're going to be fine. We're good. And, but the second one is, I can't even explain it, but it's just the scene from Force Awakens when the March of the Resistance is playing and the X-Wings are coming in across the lake. And I started to cry. I don't even know why. It's just tears started welling up in my eyes as this amazing music was playing, and here come the X-Wings to save the day, and then you find out that Poe's alive. It's just like, it was just, all of that is amazing. That's my most recent one.
Yeah, you know, there's plenty from the original films, but right now the one that I love is Rey leaning up against, you know, her rusty AT-AT, wearing that helmet and looking up at the sky, because it speaks of dreams. It speaks of a hope for something else, and that one hit me. So, yeah.
My new favorite is Luke tossing the lightsaber over his shoulder, because I mean, there's like so much hope, and like you know, Rey is just waiting for that moment where he's gonna like teach her how to be a Jedi, and he's like, nope, and then he goes drinks gross green milk. So like, I think that's one of the things I like about the franchise, is that it's always something new. Like even though like you can go to the original trilogy and then the episodes 1 through 3, and then everything else, and like look and see like the scenes that you still like. There's always a new scene that's gonna like kind of like capture that Star Wars moment.
See, because of when I was born, and because back in the 80s you couldn't just go buy a movie and watch it on your video cassette recorder, that didn't come out until like 1988 or whatever. So like Return of the Jedi was the first movie that I really got involved with that I saw in the theater, and so like it's I love the ensemble scenes. I love now the cantina, but then Jabba's barge and his lair. But the moment when Leia's like she's on her speeder, her bike, and she falls and like she meets Wicket, and you're like, she's this princess, she's out of her depth, she's with the strangers, like her world is falling apart, and she like makes friends with the murder bear. But like that moment was just, it's like I saw a woman with dark hair who was in the forest and was like, well, gonna befriend this dude. And I was like, that's me. And then when C-3PO is like telling the story to the Ewoks, and you see like the little Nippet and the baby Walklings being like, whoa! But that's it. It was so charming because I think it was 6. It's really hard to grasp the like intergalactic war, but like those were my entree movies. But then when you get to The Force Awakens, and I was like, what, the midnight show opening, holding my daughter's hand, and that very moment where you go, oh my God, that's the hero, is the woman. But like, I had like the full body chills, and of course she has no idea. And I'm like, it's like I'm passing the baton on to you.
I know, this is a hard question for me because I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, and so I really was like going back into my archives and saying like, it should be classic, but then I always go to the scene when BB-8 just does a little thumbs up, and I swear that was the moment where I was like, we're back. We are back to where we were then, and we have hope, and we have a badass little droid, and it was just my everything. So going back to the fandom stuff, did you start writing fan fiction, or in Katie's case, drawing fan art related to Star Wars as a result of the fandom? Or was it just like a case-by-case thing where like a new title came out and you're like, oh, I'm gonna write a story? Does anybody write fan fiction?
No. I also grew up in the 70s and 80s. When I was a kid, like, Star Wars was not necessarily a friendly fandom for a black girl, and it was not necessarily one that I would, like, share my love of the franchise. Like, I spent a lot of time as, like, a nerd that, like, kind of just, like, I liked the things I liked, but I was never going to go and like join those spaces. And I do like that the fandom, like, now that we have the internet spaces, it has opened up and it has brought in. You can see like, oh, there are actual black people who like Star Wars, and it's not just people who like Lando. And so like I think that's one of the things for me. It's like it's always felt like one of those things that like I could appreciate but never be part of until now.
I mean, I started in a lot of things drawing fan art online and putting it out there. But I mean, I've grown up as the awkward nerd kid. You gotta wear your awkwardness with stubborn pride. Pro tip. But I would always be like, oh, I drew a picture of Yoda. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did this. And I started getting work from that. And now I've worked in a lot of different licenses, and I've done Star Wars work for almost 10 years. I mean, that's ridiculous. If there was a child in here, I would have called them out here. How old are you? Hey, you were kind of alive when I started down this path.
I'm definitely not an artist and have never written fan fiction, but I play out fan fiction like through a Star Wars RPG, which is kind of a different way of telling stories and finding a way to live in that world. But that's how I kind of like get to do like anything I like. I play a diplomat agitator. I try to recruit for the rebellion, and that's how I kind of live out my rebellion dreams.
So I've only written unauthorized fan fiction once, because I mean technically we write fan fiction. It's just authorized, canonized, and pays the bills. Which we won't speak of that because it was on a Dragon Con dare. But yeah, Bria can tell you if you like Hux and Kylo Ren and Phasma and Innuendo, like talk to Bria. But my husband got me to play the Star Wars RPG in college. I'd never played an RPG before because I had no friends, and apparently you need more people than one to play an RPG in high school. But so I made this character, but I didn't understand it. I was so worried, like I was an A student, so like I wanted to play the game just right, and make all the right choices. And he was like, no, it's about having a character, telling a story, doing strange things. You're not supposed to play yourself being safe. You're supposed to have fun. And I was so like tight, I couldn't do it. And so finally, he killed me. He killed me with a bunch of Nograi in a Jedi library. And I remember just sitting there across the table and being like, but it's over. And he was like, yeah, if you won't play the game, I'm not going to DM you. And it was like this huge lesson insofar as like characters have to make choices. They can't just be like, I'm going to just do the thing and do the thing. Like, but to really take the risks, which I think has really helped my writing life. But that's what Phasma is dedicated to, is like he killed me with a bunch of Nograi, like a jerk.
I've never actually written a lot of fanfic, and I have never wanted to write Star Wars fanfic until I got a job writing for Star Wars. And this is actual fanfic, because I wanted to write something funny based on Solo. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it because basically when Kira makes her phone call at the end of the movie, he's right there. I mean, he's right there. He's right there, and he's all ready to be menacing. And what do you have for me, Kira? And I'm like, dude's sitting there waiting for a call like a teenage girl, hoping someone is going to call. And I'm like, he's just going, I hope Kira calls me. Maybe Dryden Voss wants to do something Friday night. I really, really hope someone's going to call. Oh, she's calling her. And you know, and then he's like, come to me. And I'm like, they're going to have a slumber party. They're going to be giggling. They're going to be hollow calling other people. I got this whole thing in my head, and I'm like, if I write this, I might get in trouble because I'm actually now a canon Star Wars writer. But yeah, when that scene came up, for some reason, I'm like, why is he just sitting there waiting for the call? Why is he not off doing scary things?
He was on the toilet. You just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Even
That's
Sith
what it
Lords
was.
take their phones to the bathroom.
That's right.
So what is it like to have people write to you about your fiction, or in Katie's case, maybe they draw pictures that are like it. So to have that fandom received back to you, for good and for worse.
I just do not engage. Do not engage. Scroll on past and do not engage. I mean, because I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Twitter's awful. It's like a fresh hellscape every time you log in, whether you're looking at politics or just whatever shenanigans or Kanye. God damn it, Kanye, stop tweeting. And so I have no desire. I feel like Star Wars is a big enough space that everybody can have their own theories and their own things they want. Look, I have fan theories that are going to break your heart. That I've told my friends, and they're like, "That's the worst thing I've ever heard. How dare you share that with me?" And now I'm just like, "Okay, I'm not going to share those with anybody else." But so I think one of those things is you just don't engage. If you have that's a space. There's a space for fans, and once you're participating in the creation of stories within the Star Wars galaxy, I feel like it's just best not to engage. Let people have their conversations and just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh no. I make things for children and they're delightful. And art from kids, I get messages that their parents have written me going, "Oh, my kids love your book. They drew you a picture of a porg." And I was like, "Yes, please, I have a P.O. box. Mail it to me so I can put it on the shrine to myself in my office."
I like that you have a
real.
shrine to yourself.
So what you're saying is don't write, learn to draw.
Well, you can write for children.
I write for children.
Who gave them a Twitter account?
Oh, it's not children. No. There was literally legit someone at-replied me today with a screenshot of a 5,000 word theory about the Last Jedi, and I was like,
I only
good
got
on
that
you,
when I
bro.
worked for the Brony fandom.
no, man, no.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I didn't print it out and put it on my wall.
Okay.
So
No. I only
could.
know that I write Rainbow Dash terribly, so it's that's the only thing Twitter has taught me. Other than that, everyone's great. I block some people, but maybe my husband is doing it for me. He's like, yeah, Katie doesn't need to see
now
that.
you're scared to look at your ad replies,
I
right?
am.
Because you're like, oh no, what did I miss?
Being protected from.
Now, in Amy's case, what's really interesting is that she's a journalist, and so she has to write really important, articles that I sometimes task her with 24 hours ahead of time. And, now in this space, people can just directly write back to you about the articles that you put out. So what's that feedback like?
Well, it's one thing that's actually really weird about the book versus the internet thing is I can write something for the internet and it's going to be pushed down the feed by 100 other stories within 24 hours. And people move on, unless it's like you write some weird fan theory that people don't like, and then they for sure let you know. It's weird that it's like how the internet works is you often hear more from people who dislike your work or disagree with you than people who like it. So when you hear positive things, like if you have something positive to say about an artist or to a writer, like tell them, because that side needs to be more vocal. Yes, please. But definitely with I don't read comment sections on the internet, whether it's on, I manage nerdist.com. I definitely do not look at the Facebook comments. I feel so strongly for our social media manager, anybody who has to work in that space. I don't look at Twitter @ replies to that account. And I have, knock on all the things, not received too much negativity on Twitter in general. People will come in and engage sometimes with, if it's about Star Wars especially, like, oh, hey, you wrote this thing about, probably Ahsoka, let's be honest. This is what I think about it. What do you think about this? And that's really fun. And if somebody ats me with something that's just like they're trying, you can tell usually when they're trying to instigate, I'm just like mute, block. Because none of us have time for negativity.
Well, if anybody bothers you, you just tell me.
I will.
Be like, I feel like 99% of my Star Wars fans' interactions have been super duper lovely, which might be because I'm a white lady writing about a white lady. So there's no intersectionality there, so it's kind of safe for me. But the only ones I've gotten that are we talking about positive or negative here? Because like positive,
yeah, anything.
Okay. Like the only negative was when I wrote the Rose Tico comment, and I guess there are guys that spend their days scouring the internet for the word Rose Tico to tell you you're garbage if you say that word, and you're like, oh, thank you, Bloody Mary. Say it 3 times. I guess Rose Tico somehow disappears. She won't, because she's awesome. But the best is seeing characters that you've created in the canon come to life. Like the first time I saw a cardinal from Phasma, I was just like, it's like when Big Bird, like everybody finally saw Snuffleupagus, and Big Bird's like, I told you I wasn't crazy. And I'm like, I made that dude, and he's here. And they gave me a cardinal helmet of my own. So I like have my special baby son, where I'm like, if the house burns down, I'll be like, cardinal helmet, children, dog, husband. Hermit crabs, but like cardinal helmet is like the first thing. So that's just, it's so magical to be like that. We all love this so much, and to know that you've connected with people, and that the things you love about Star Wars, and when you write them, other people love them too. Like it's so magical. Like Twitter, maybe once a day somebody I've never heard of, it's like, oh, Phasma's a great book, and I'm like, thank you, you stopped me from crying today.
I was, because of all the Twitter excitement that has happened to Chuck Wendig and stuff, I was very careful and locked down a lot of stuff before Solo came out. You can't DM me unless I follow you, and I just went through a lot of stuff. And the thing that bothers me is people who get harassed on social media because people DM them horrible things. Step 1 is, why are they allowed to DM you? I'm nobody, and I don't let strangers DM me. And you're like a movie star, and you're letting your DMs. I mean, I don't even get it. It's so I went through all the precautions I could, and so I haven't really gotten a lot of feedback except from people who like it. And that's been awesome. But going back to what Justina said about the whole other people's theories, I think we all have this desire to find out if there's something that is, if you have a thought that something is right. Are you right about this thing that you think about Star Wars? And like you said, it doesn't matter. If you think it, then it's right. I mean, it's not really worth debating, because if you believe this, then your headcanon's just fine. Enjoy it. It's a story. Enjoy your part of the story. One thing that I found fascinating was there were a couple of things that happened in Solo that I read a certain way, and then I put in the novel as a certain way, and people who were writing about the novel still misinterpreted what I was intending. I mean, a lot of it, like Kira's motivations in leaving Han and stuff like that. But spoiler alert, sorry about that. I found it fascinating that even though I got to write the narrative and you got to read a lot inside both of their minds, people still have their idea of why what happened, and that's fine. I mean, that's how they read the book, that's how they saw the movie. That's their experience, and that's okay. I'm not going to argue with them and say they're wrong. They're not.
Even if they are wrong, right?
Even if they are wrong.
So that's a great segue into my next question, because what makes these authors and basically all of our ladies in Star Wars who, you know, work behind the scenes, whether they're in marketing or in my case PR or editorial, they might be on the production team, is that you are literally writing, such as in Mur's case, the solo film, but with expanded content. Or for Delilah, an origin story for Phasma. In Amy's case, a herstory of Star Wars. Katie is literally redesigning the way that we imagine Star Wars. Justina created an all-new Lando and L3 adventure with new characters. So can you tell me, you know, you're writing this expansive world through the lens of obviously your gender and your experience. So what did you think needed to be done or said with your projects?
Can I take that one?
Take it.
No spoilers. So yesterday
spoilers.
Mur tried to give away like all the secrets in the solo book she wrote, and I was like, look, like keep some secrets because some of us have that book on our shelf at home and we're gonna read it. So no spoilers.
No
I'm
spoilers.
not gonna spoil it.
It's just your experience.
Yeah. Well, now I forgot what I was gonna say. You go, and I'll try to remember what I was gonna say. Oh yeah. So this came from an interview somebody was doing with me, and they said, "Wow, you've really fleshed out like L3 and Kira, and you know, I gave Val a much bigger backstory, and I let her do a lot of internal internal experience during the train job. How about that? Can I say that?
Yes.
And someone's like, okay, so why didn't you expand Beckett? And I'm like, Beckett, right. That was the dude, wasn't it? And I'm like, it did not occur to me that he needed anything more. And that's probably what I saw through my the lens of my gender was Kira needs more, L3 needs more, Val needs more. Mm-hmm. And that's what I expanded. Oh, and Enfys Nest.
Yes.
A lot more Enfys Nest.
So good.
As much as they'd let me write. They did make me cut some of it.
All right. Katie, I think you want to take this.
Well, it's, you know, I illustrate Star Wars books, and I do books for Padawans. They are wee, cute little things that have not met Anakin yet. And, spoiler. And, you know, I take that very seriously. I get the chance to draw Star Wars in my style, and I get to try and design the characters to be accessible to even like the youngest 2 or 3-year-old onward and upward up through elementary school. And they're recognizable, but they're still very sweet and very charming and very cute. How dare you? You're okay. But yeah, it's this task. It's not Herculean to some, but to me, it's that no, I want to make sure that, you know, any kid that looks at the book is like, he's not so stylized they can't say, that's not Yoda. I know what Yoda's like. Yeah, you don't want a 5-year-old to tell you did Star Wars wrong. But no, so that's how I take my job, is like, it's my job to be almost like the gateway. I'm, you know, the introductory person. Some people see these books before they show their kids the movies as the first intro they have to the character. So I take it very seriously to make sure that everything is on brand and that everything does have the charm and the world building that Star Wars has.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I just wanted to show that the galaxy is a really big-ass place, right? I'm like, so like, you know, like people tend to like keep coming back to the same characters and the same planets that we know and love, but like, it's a big galaxy. Like, if you're like me and a nerd and you have the Star Wars Visual Encyclopedia and it has the map of the galaxy, you know there's a lot of shit out there, right? Sorry, earmuffs. And so, like, what I wanted to show kids, and yes, I do write for children, is that there's a lot of stuff out there that they don't know about. Because I think when you have kids, and especially, like, I have a 10-year-old at home, so, you know, I have your Star Wars career at home right now at a soccer tournament. And one of the things that happens with kids is they get like kind of focused in on just certain things. Like they don't necessarily realize how big the world is. And so I wanted to show, kids who are coming into the Star Wars galaxy that it is bigger than just, Luke and Leia and Tatooine. Like there is a whole world out there. There's a whole galaxy out there for them to explore and for them to dream, right? Because part of like being part of a fandom or being part of something that you love is the ability to have your own dreams and like your own theories within that universe or galaxy. So that's one of the things I wanted to do with Lando, was just kind of show like, hey, there are other places in the galaxy that you haven't seen yet, and we should be excited about that as well.
And piggybacking off that, that's something I was really enthused about and excited about with Women of the Galaxy, because it does obviously include the Reys, the Padmes, the Leias, these iconic characters, but we really made sure to dive into the comics and into the books and the video games. So you get Afra, so you get an archaeologist, you get, with Durla from Canto Bight, a wine expert, you get a savvy businesswoman at that, and there are bounty hunters and villains. So it's really, like, that's exciting to me to see, like, not only just all these different characters, but all their different kind of careers and roles in the Star Wars galaxy, and just to kind of make, kind of look at how big it is and how many different things you can do that are not just red or blue lightsaber.
Okay, so now you and Katie need to do your guide to careers in the Star Wars galaxy for kids. They can go through and choose what they're going to be. Like, here's how you become a Ronto midwife. Here's how you
into it.
How to be Lando's cape maker.
There are several.
Oh.
I feel like he has to have so many options, and he would be so exacting that they're all like, you got to take this one. I can't.
No, they're all just throwing fabric out.
Yeah, there's actually an extended Lando cape joke in Lando's Luck, if you guys haven't read it. Because I was like, I just want to have this him talking about his cape maker. So there's actually references, and now it's canon. So.
Nice. Yeah, just someone who's ready to throw a bolt of fabric over I don't know how I feel about the shoulder fit. It's only over one shoulder.
So as far as the thing that you wanted to show in Star Wars, so Phasma is kind of a different book. I wrote it so that people who had never read a Star Wars book, you don't have to read the extended universe. If you've seen The Force Awakens, you're going to be fine. But in the world, as a society, we kind of accept that men can be monsters. We're like, Kylo Ren, you monster, we still kind of love you. Darth Vader, you're a monster, but we're going to wear you on our clothes and have you on our pillows and carry you as a purse. We're very accepting of men as monsters, okay, but the women have to be perfect. They have to be paragons. They can't mess up. They have to be pretty. Even in a fight, they have to be good. We never talk about how Leia has the best hit rate with her gun. So it was really fun to take a woman in Star Wars who is an unapologetic monster. I don't think that Phasma goes back to her room on the absolution and is like, oh man, did I mess up today? I was really mean. Shouldn't have been that mean to Cardinal. Probably shouldn't have killed that other guy. I feel like she goes she's never questioned herself. And it was really fun to get to write a woman that maybe she's a sociopath, we don't know, but she's completely sure in herself and nothing stops her. And
maybe she's a sociopath.
I think she's
wrote a
just
monster.
No, she is a career-minded woman. Okay. You cannot be part of the Empire and worry about how your nails look, right?
I mean, I assume they're chrome. I assume.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that was kind of part of the beauty. It's like this woman is a monster and she will kill you if you have a problem with that. And it was a joy. And then when you get to Civ and Vimerati, they are still strong women. But yeah, and you notice the people don't necessarily question her, even though she does all these things. They're still we'll be loyal to you. And then, monster women.
So lots of people from publishing have these questions. I always do. How do you actually prep to write your works? Do you have a special room that you write in? I know somebody actually writes in a kitchen, in a chicken coop. Do you listen to any music? It's a long story. Do you travel? What do you do? Gearing up. Do you eat lots of candy?
Obviously. So for Phasma, I work from home, and I have an office, but I mostly work at the kitchen island because it feels like it's in the heart of everything, and I can see Cardinal. But I didn't have Cardinal at the time, but I would put on any Star Wars movie in the background on mute and then turn on the Mad Max Fury Road soundtrack.
That's amazing.
I listened to it like 300 times writing the book. So yeah, that's just, you know, it's that whole Charlize Theron, like, head up, shoulders down, think murder. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Mad Max, that's my writing soundtrack, yeah. I try not to have too many rituals about my writing because I always think if I ever go somewhere and I need to write and I don't have my ritualistic whatever, am I going to still be able to do it? So I've tried not to tie myself. But when it comes to music, it's Mad Max or Star Wars, sometimes The Matrix. It's got to be soundtrack, can't have words, and unless it's The Matrix, which is a lot of yelling, but not actual, not songs you really pay attention to a lot of the words. But yeah, it's got to be the music and it's got to be exciting. That helps a lot. Mm-hmm. But that's about all I try to tie my ritual to.
Got it. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I am a hipster jerk. Caught my language there. And I have a record player, and so when I wrote Lando's Luck, I listened to all of my funk music from the 70s. So it was like Earth, Wind, and Fire and Kool and the Gang and like the Brothers Johnson, because I was like, if I'm going to write the coolest man in the galaxy, I have to listen to the coolest music in the galaxy. So yeah, that was my ritual for that book. But that was only for that book, and so each book is different.
Yeah, I have a studio that's in the walkout basement of my house back in Michigan. So it's like I just settle in there. I put on an audiobook, and I've got a cat in my lap, a dog on my feet. Sometimes I have a kid like wedged in between my back and my chair, and she's on her iPad like with it hitting the back of my head, because that's quality parenting time. And so I just work. I have a Cintiq that I'm hunched over, and I just do this until I get an email that there's a change and I didn't draw a next wing right. And then I cry. They're hard.
I feel like crying is not always part of my ritual, but it's frequent. It's good and cathartic. But mine is more like time of day. So when I wrote Women of the Galaxy, like I have a 9 to 6 job. So I would get up around like 5 a.m. and work a couple hours. Like I just work. Unfortunately, I was sad. Like I was so sad when I realized I'm like, oh, I'm a morning person. I really don't want to be up this early, but this is somehow when I work best. So it was getting up and doing those couple hours before I started the day. Because once I get home, like nothing is going to happen beyond putting food in my mouth and going to bed as soon as possible.
And then this is a one answer question. Are you a plotter or a pantser? And for those of you who don't know, a plotter is somebody who actually sits down and researches, storyboards, does thorough, background notes. Pantser is just you sit down and you just go. So which are you?
I mean, I feel like it's very different for your own personal books versus Star Wars books because there is a process in place that you're a part of that we're not allowed to talk about, but it's not pantsing.
Yeah, you can't pants when you're writing somebody else's IP. No one trusts you that much. No one will. I am pantser. Sorry, I didn't know if you were done. Sorry.
Yeah, well, so I mean, basically any book, like before I start writing, I need to know the moment it starts, the instigating factor when everything changes, the main conflict, the climax, and the ending. Otherwise, I feel like I can't steer in that direction. So I guess I'm more of like an organized pantser. Like I know where the pants are, and I have the closet.
So you're like a tailored pantser, then.
I'm a caper. It's just capes.
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 Go with capes. Who needs pants when you have capes? I'm a pantser in my day-to-day life, but when I wrote the Star Wars, you have to turn a synopsis, which is fun because the first synopsis I turned in of what I wanted to write, they're like, yeah, that's the Solo movie, you can't do that. And I was like, oh, that's fun. And so then I turned in another synopsis. So yeah, so I think for like when you're writing, like Mur said, when you're writing IP, they want to know kind of what you have an idea of writing so that you're not necessarily crossing into other storylines that are in process. So, but in my own heart of hearts, I'm a pantser because part of the fun of writing a story is figuring out what the hell happens.
Well, it's different when you're drawing a book because it's like my thumbnails are this big, and now because I've gotten complaints when I send them to licensing people, they need to be this big, so people can actually see what's happening. But no, there's a lot of plotting, and even when I write something, even for my own book, I'm a plotter. Like I have notes and Post-it notes, and I have a binder this thick with everything all tabbed off. I was a member of a Scrabble club. I'm a type. Like, I was like, this is a very specific person right here. So yeah, everything is organized and everything is in its place when I do anything. I'm really fun to be a mom. My kids just adore it.
I didn't write fiction, and I don't even know how words. So for the nonfiction in the fiction world that I write, I do an outline like for each character. I'm like, I know these are the beats I want to hit, and I kept I love spreadsheets. So to keep track of where I was and like with notes and like gathering things, like I had a spreadsheet that had all the female characters on it in various colors. So I kind of stayed organized that way.
So now, some of you have written your first Star Wars something, others have written many of Star Wars something, but is there anything that you discovered about yourself that you were surprised by when you were writing your stuff? About yourself? Like, are you more anxiety-driven than you thought you were when it comes to
we're
battles?
writers.
Yeah, fair.
I discovered I was really pedantic about Star Wars stuff. And I think it's just I don't know why. Like, I'm just totally not like type A at all. Like, I like can barely dress myself in the morning. But like when it came down to like stuff in like Star Wars, like my kiddo was like, "Are you gonna do this?" I'm like, "No, I would never do that. Lando would never do that." Like, and it got to this point, like it was this joke in our house where like Lando would never wear a purple cape with yellow pants, because obviously those colors look terrible together. So yeah, so it became like this whole thing. It's like, what would Lando do? And so yeah, so I think that's what I've discovered about me is like I had a very set idea in my mind of what kind of a Lando I wanted to write, because of what I had already ingested from Star Wars.
Oh, I discovered I can get really just lost in the weeds. So I'll be like, I need to go look up this one fact. Cut to an hour later. Well, I had to watch all of those episodes of Clone Wars I just watched again for research. And then I'm like, no, but I didn't actually get many words on the page. And then, this is a tangent, but I discovered Stardew Valley while I was writing this book. That was bad. Just don't start playing new games when you're on a deadline. Pro tip.
Stardew Valley. I haven't, like, I got hooked on Yonder the Cloudcatcher Chronicles. Now whenever I hear, I'm like, ooh, I have farms. So I write a whole bunch of genres. Like I've written YA, middle grade, romance, westerns, horror. But I never leaned towards crime or procedurals. And for Star Wars, when they were like, hey, will you write, Bazine Natal as a Lady James Bond, I was like, yeah, I'll figure out how to do that. That'd be great. And when we decided, that Phasma was going to have like the interrogation, I was like, yeah, I'll do an interrogation. But it's neat, like to be able to rise to the occasion for things that you didn't know you could do, or I think every writer has things you're like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. But it's like, for Star Wars, I'll do anything.
I had the script for Solo, and the middle grade book was already done, so I also had that as a sort of backup. But the problem was, I know what happens in the movie. I've got the script. I did not have the script. Just letting you know, they don't give those out. I had the notes I'd taken from the script, and I had the middle grade book, and suddenly I'm like, I feel like I'm bordering on plagiarism here, because how am I going to write this scene in a completely new way? And I discovered that point of view is everything. So I would take a scene and tell the same scene from a different point of view than the middle grade book did, and all the same stuff happens, but you're in somebody else's head, and so you're getting a different sort of thinking about what's going on. And I that felt like an epiphany, that this is something that I can do that doesn't make me feel like I'm plagiarizing something else. I'm not just regurgitating, I'm actually tweaking it and making it my own.
Did you have any of you all have any scenes, or in Katie's case, illustrations that were just really hard to write through?
One of the pages in OB-123 has 11 X-Wings on it. Can't say I was a fan. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
That sounds really hard, actually. Is that when you took the saber and just threw it out?
There was a moment, that was Search Your Feelings, I did all digital, but OB-123, I hand inked some of that stuff. So there was this moment of like, oh wait, if I go do this over here, there's an undo button. So that's when I went digital.
L3 getting uploaded to the Falcon was very difficult. It was very challenging because it was just very challenging. That end of that character made me very sad, and I wanted to work through and tell it from her point of view so that we could learn a little bit more about exactly what was happening and maybe come to a little bit more peace with that. And that was very challenging.
There's a scene at the end of Lando's Luck when there's an awesome space battle because it's Star Wars and you need a war in the stars to be on brand. But there was, the first time I wrote the scene, I wrote it from Lando's the book's written in third person, so you're not getting like the I saw, I see, I know, but you're getting like Lando sees, Lando knows. But I originally wrote it from Lando's point of view, and I was like, this wouldn't be cool to him. Obviously, he's probably been in a space battle in the Falcon before, so I rewrote it from the child main character's point of view, and it just kind of opened up the opportunities because then now she's sitting in the cockpit like flipping buttons and like L3's telling her what to do, and so I think sometimes like you said, like a different point of view like makes a, but I struggled with that scene because I couldn't figure out how to make it feel kinetic enough for a younger reader because it was very like mechanical in the beginning, and then as soon as I put a younger character in that space, it worked. There was no X-Wings, though. There are no X-Wings in that scene.
That's my burden to bear.
So there are lots of fights in Phasma, and when you have a book with lots of fights, you don't want them to get kind of boring or repetitive. And also, it's kind of fighting we haven't seen a ton in Star Wars. It's not the elegant dueling of the Jedi, and it's not the regimented work of the First Order. It's like dirty brawling, basically. And so I watched all the movies on repeat, but for the fights, I found like this Netflix, you watch one thing on Netflix and it starts recommending things you've never heard of. But I found this movie that I called Mads Fights Things, and it was like Mads Mikkelsen, and I didn't have the sound on, I have no idea what it was about. It was like Mads Mikkelsen, totally dirty, greasy hair, just beating the crap out of everything. It's like Viking mud movie. And then it recommended like Charlie Hunnam Fights Things. I don't know the name of that movie either, but then it's Charlie Hunnam. He's like,
was that Trash King Arthur?
No, it wasn't Trash King Arthur.
Okay.
It was, I don't know, he was...
If you guys don't know, the Guy Ritchie movie is Trash King Arthur, okay.
Yeah, but it's that same idea where it's like, it's all of our famous guys in that one movie right before they hit it big where they're like, we're going to fill your hair with Vaseline, cover you with dirt, and have you beat guys to death as a Viking. So I just my kids would walk into it and I'd be like, don't look at the screen! Yeah, so I learned like fight scenes. You just got to get on Netflix and get dirty.
I had a really hard time writing Leia's profile. I put that when in some ways should be easy because she's done so much and we've seen so much of her lifespan and career in the galaxy and all the things she's done. But I was so intimidated by it, and she is Leia. She is everything, and I didn't want to mess it up. I wanted to try to do it right. I wanted to try to include, but I'm like, I want to include everything amazing thing Leia's done, which is a lot, and it was just like this is way too many, too many pages. And so I started big and cut back, but I definitely, my editor's not in here, but I put that one off as long as I'd be like, he's like, are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm working on it. And I just kind of kept leaving it for as long as I could.
So we just have a few minutes left, and you're not going to kick me out if I go over, because I know that there's nothing else after this. So lightning round questions, which are my favorite. We're just going to go down the line real quick. Are you light or dark side?
Mandalorian.
Light.
Smuggler.
Porg.
Light.
All right, now, who would make you turn to the other side?
Poe Dameron. No hesitation.
I like the idea of a Poe and Porg
If you were
mashup.
a porg, you could have an awesome nest in his hair. Just like go around with him everywhere.
Be very wavy and soft.
All right. Who's next? Who's gonna turn you?
Hux.
All right.
What?
I mean, Domhnall Gleeson,
No judgment.
really. But Hux.
If we can talk about like 16-year-old me, I would have been like, Kylo Ren, I can change you. I come to my room and listen to the Cure with me, and let's go to a cemetery and let's talk about our feelings. Like I would have really thought, yeah.
I'm not sure, so I'm just gonna say Vader, but Vader from the Lego Star Wars retelling. Just because that was my daughter's first video game. We played that through together, and in episode 5, we'd been playing for hours and hours and hours. When we unlocked Vader, she thought it was her birthday. She's just like, we unlocked the Vader skin, and everything was perfect from then on. And I'm just like, I wish I could see Vader like that. So I'm just gonna try to look the way my daughter looked at Lego Vader in the game and go for Lego Vader.
All right. Favorite weapon to use in a battle? And this is personal. It doesn't have to be like related to your works. Just if you were in a battle, what weapon would you bust out?
Oh, I want one of those like cool force pike things.
Like the executioner's pike.
Like that, it's yes, close to that, yeah.
The pen.
Because the pen is mightier than the sword.
That way I'm not in the fight. I'm somewhere else. Alexander Hamilton it up from, a very nice brownstone in New York, fighting the good fight.
You would be like the courtroom illustrator of like the Star Wars
Yeah.
world.
That's another career to add to the list. Okay.
They have to draw Darth Vader's helmet from every angle. It's the worst job.
Does Mr. Bones count as a weapon?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Now hide behind Mr. Bones.
See, I want to say lightsaber because lightsaber, but I've always thought I'm going to be the person that accidentally cuts off my own arm. And I wonder why we don't see more, like, older Jedi just going, like, retired because there was that one time when they were doing the spin and it just got out of hand and no one talks about it, but we know why this Jedi is doing the paperwork and not out fighting the good fight.
So is this like the middle grade shop teacher of the Jedi?
So I'll say blaster because I'm pretty sure I would not kill myself with that one.
It's funny you talk about this because my whole theory is like, what happens after like Order 66 to all the lightsabers the Jedi had? Like, are there like just a bunch of jailbroken like lightsabers out in the galaxy with like people like trying to use them like blowing up and shit? Because I'm like, that's what I would use. Like that would be me. Like I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna fight, and it would be the lightsaber that explodes in my hand. So.
I like the idea that there's a Jedi out there who's missing a hand, and they're like, oh man, how'd you get that? And he's like, Darth Maul? Oh, I didn't know he was on the planet with you. Yeah, he was totally there.
No one's seen a Sith for 1,000 years.
Oh. Just like the line, and like meanwhile, like the hands in his pocket.
Yes.
It's like, thank God it cauterized it on the way.
Yes.
Like, what's the Star Wars equivalent of like, hold my beer? Hold my Corellian wine?
Hold my Wookiee Wango.
I would say hold my porg.
I'm just now thinking of Anakin just like after all that bloodshed, just going, okay, now time to loot. And just goes around and loots all the lightsabers and comes out with a big bag.
Are you talking about looting dead children?
They don't have anything
Not
good.
light side, y'all. Might have been alive.
I'm not saying he should have. I'm just saying I can see it.
Those kids might have had their like allowance on them. That's just good business sense.
I have a problem when you can't loot things in video games. Going back to the Lego thing, the bits would be bouncing around, they disappear if you don't loot them. And I'm telling my daughter's pushing the thing, the screen as she wants to keep going. I'm like, no, there's stuff to loot. We gotta go pick up the stuff.
So don't die around Mur.
No,
She'll take your stuff.
loot the hell out of you. Yeah.
Okay, last question. If you could put yourself in any Star Wars film, which would it be?
Episode 9, because I want to know what happens.
The Last Jedi, because I want to live on that island.
With the milk beasts?
Yes.
The fish ladies?
It's called a Delilah Siren.
I would be
They
alone.
would take care
It
of
would be
you.
great. I would be
need to
Luke.
talk. Like,
I am grumpy old man Luke already, and I would gladly go away and hide.
Can I choose Alderaan before it blows up? It was a very nice planet. But I got off of it just in time.
To watch everybody else blow up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be really sad. I'll be bummed. But
I mean, Naboo is really beautiful. And for a long time, it's like that there weren't problems there until they were. It's like I just go hang out with those things that look like furry ticks that are bounding in the grasslands. I want to go to a place where nothing happens.
I feel like if you moved to Naboo, Jar Jar would end up being your neighbor.
I'd be like, oh my God, he's always asking to borrow the sugar. Don't tell him we're home. Hide. Turn out the lights.
I'd say Force Awakens because I want to work in Maz's Cantina. Before the attack, not after.
Until the day before all
Yeah,
that happens,
yeah.
and you happen to leave.
did you ever notice that Star Wars destroys a lot of things that we love in the movies? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I like that spot. Maz's Cantina's great. Aww. Aww.
Star Wars basically teaches us that we can't have nice things.
Life is fleeting.
So this is our panel. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope it was a good conversation. Buy all of their books, buy all of their things, buy all of our Star Wars books and all of our things, and we will see you hopefully at Celebration in Chicago 2019.
Yay!